Hi everybody, my name is Leo Booth and I'm an alcoholic.
Hello, Leo.
And it's wonderful to be here for the spring fling in Sacramento. Some young man came over to me as I arrived here and said to me, "So glad to meet you. I've got all your tapes and your books. It's an honor to meet you, Father Martin." I said, "Thank you. I'm no fool." I think it was in 1990 that I was privileged to come and speak to you. And I'm looking around and you don't look much older. In fact, you look great. And it's wonderful to be able to share. Mary said to me, Mary, the 10-minute speaker. Mary. It's a name I don't easily forget, Mary. But Mary said, "Do you get nervous?" I don't get nervous. Because nobody in this room made my mother cry. Nobody in this room fought with my father. I don't fear anybody in this room. The one person I fear, his name is Leo. Because I don't know about you, but I've been the single biggest problem in my life. And if I've been the single biggest problem, I can be the solution. So for me to be able to come and share with you tonight, by the way, my home group is the Long Beach, California. People often wonder where I come from. Most people seem to think I come from Ohio. No, I do not come from Ohio. I have visited Ohio, but I've never actually come from there. I'm actually from England. I was born in England, outside of Manchester, and I lived a lot of my life in England, came to this country in 1980, but I got sober on the 4th of July, 1977. 4th of July, 1977. Now, we don't keep the 4th of July in England. It's a terrible waste of tea. We had a prime minister. We had a prime minister. His name was Winston Churchill. I don't know whether many of you realize it, but Winston Churchill was known for many things, not least his drinking. He loved to drink. One day he was having dinner with Lady Astor, and Lady Astor turned to Winston Churchill and said, Winnie, you're drunk." And Winston Churchill, in his inimitable way, said, "Madam, you are ugly. But I shall wake up sober in the morning." She was quick to say to him, she says, Winnie, if I was your wife, I'd put poison in your soup. Madam, if I was your husband, I'd drink it. By the way, do we have anybody from Al-Anon here? Anybody from Al-Anon? Good, yeah. Don't be shy. You never used to be. It's a lovely story. It's a good story. A woman who had 7 years in Al-Anon, but she married very badly. She married a very old-fashioned man. And on their wedding night, they went to the bedroom. And the man took off his trousers and he threw his trousers in the middle of the bedroom. He says, "Wife, get into those trousers." She said, "I can't get into those trousers." He says, "No. And don't forget who wears the trousers in this marriage." It's very old-fashioned. But she had 7 years in Al-Anon. She did no more. She took off her panties. And she threw her panties into the middle of the bedroom. She said, "Husband, get into those panties." He says, "I can't get into those panties." She says, "No, and you won't until you change your attitude." Some of you may be thinking, what's panties got to do with recovery? Everything. One thing I do want to share with you is that this is a spiritual program. It is not a religious program. I have been fortunate enough in my life to be at 12-step meetings in Israel, in India, in Thailand, in China. The people were Buddhist or Muslim or Hindu, Jewish. This is not a Christian program. It is a spiritual program. When Bill and some of the people who were starting this amazing fellowship originally started on the 12 steps, they nearly wrote in, "Having had a religious awakening as a result of these steps." But it was Lois, good old Lois, who turned round to Bill and said, "Bill! Bill!" Because that's how she spoke. She was a loud mouth. "Bill!" He says, "What, Lois?" She says, "Bill, if you start preaching to the alcoholics, they'll all get drunk." He said, "What should I say, Lois?" She said, "Say what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. Share, Bill, share. Don't preach." Now, I say this to you because many of you have known me for some years as Father Leo when I was an Episcopal priest. Today I've moved into a church called Unity, which presents a beautiful magazine called The Daily Word, and I've been fortunate enough to contribute. But I say it to you because we are on a journey. I started out, like many of you, Roman Catholic. I moved to the religion of my mother, which is Church of England, which is Episcopal in this country. And now I'm on my journey as a Unity minister. I say this to you because we are on a journey, all of us. Many of you will change. Who knows where this wonderful thing called life and recovery will end? Mary mentioned the fact that in her recovery she has said goodbye to her parents. I did the same. When I was with you in 1990, my parents were very much alive. Both my parents died at the age of 91 in England. They'd been married for 68 years. And I was fortunate. By the way, if you think I've got a sense of humor, I get my sense of humor from my mother. It was my mother who said to me years ago, "Before you judge anybody, Leo, walk 5 miles in their shoes. That way, when you judge them, you're 5 miles away and you've got their shoes." Oh, yeah. You'd have liked my mother. My father died first. In fact, some people have already commented on it, and that is I wear my father's ring. Just before my father died, he was lying in a bed He was in the hospice, attached to tubes. And he couldn't do very much, but he took off this ring and he took off this ring. And he went like that. It was very dramatic, my father. I took the ring and looked at him. And then I said, "What about the watch?" I got the watch. By the way, it's terribly important for you to have a sense of humor. There's not much point in getting into recovery if you haven't got a sense of humor, because if you haven't got a sense of humor, you're probably dry and you'll drink again. If any of you are challenged with a sense of humor, go home, take off your clothes and have a look in the mirror. And if you're still not laughing, invite the neighbors in. Because believe you me, God's got a sense of humor. I'm not against, and I've never been against religion. Sometimes people say that Reverend Leo is against religion. I've never been against religion. I'm active in my own religion. I'll probably be a Christian all my life. But I respect other religions too, and I hope you do too. We live in a very dangerous world at the present time. Who would have thought in 2006, this is not the Middle Ages, who would have thought in 2006, in the name of God, people are killing each other? Thank God we have a spiritual program. And sometimes religions say things they don't mean. And sometimes it's very funny. There's no other way of putting it, it's just funny. I was in Boston recently, traveling, and I saw a big sign that was put up by the Roman Catholic Church. It said this: "Don't let worry kill you. Let the church help." They didn't mean to say that. The Methodist Church had a bulletin, and on Easter, the minister wrote in the bulletin, "This morning's sermon, Jesus walks on the water. This evening's sermon, searching for Jesus." He didn't mean to say that. A Presbyterian church in London decided to have an outreach for people with low self-esteem. It said on Wednesday evening there will be a support group for people with low self-esteem. Please use the back door. So sometimes people say things, and by the way, there's no text, there's no notes. I'm just speaking to you from my heart. If I don't say things exactly the way you would say it, so be it. That's the greatness of this program. What kind of a program would it be if we were all saying the same things? We've all got different stories and we've all got different insights. I have nurtured and loved the idea that religion is man-made, spirituality is God-given. Religion has divided people for too long. Spirituality teaches the world to hold hands. You and I belong to a spiritual program, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. And what I intend to do this evening is do what all speakers do, and that is share with you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And so, because some of you not like to know, how long the talk's going to be. It'll be about 45, 50 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer. Some of you like to know this because you like to go to the toilet. And you've got to figure out when you're going to go. And by the way, just be glad that you can go to the toilet. Because if you didn't go to the toilet, you could be dead. People could turn to you and say, what did he die of? He didn't go to the toilet. So, and by the way, sometimes going to the toilet is the best thing that's going to happen to you all day. So enjoy it. Enjoy every minute of it. That is, if you can make it last a minute. I started to drink in England, about 14 years of age. We were in a boys' school. It was a boys' school. In England, we call it a public school. A public school in England means that it's not open to the public. It's just one of those funny things about the English. They're just strange people. But anyway, it was an all-boys school. It was called a public school, and you had to pay to go. Bottom line with it all was, they gave you beer to drink at night. You have a little glass of beer. And it wasn't so much that I liked the taste. It wasn't so much that I got drunk. But I liked how I felt when I drank. I liked how I felt when I drank. And I'm not the first speaker who's going to tell you that alcoholism very much affects the feelings. I felt real good. I'm 5'7", 5'8" on a very good day. When I drank that beer, I felt 6'2". I felt bigger. I felt stronger. Ooh. And I thought I'd found a friend. And like many of you, I drank all through my university years. Sometimes I got drunk, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I'd drink every day, sometimes I didn't. This disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. It's also patient. You can wait. The one thing about it is it manifests itself differently in different people's lives. And you know this if you go to a lot of speaker meetings. We all suffer from alcoholism. Some people are drinking first thing in the morning. Some people can't get out of bed or get out of the house without a drink. It's not the same for everybody. It's not about what you drink or how much you drink or when you drink. It's about the effects. It's always about the effects. I drank all the way through university, and then I was ordained into the Church of England in 1970. And then I was let loose on a church. And just like you, I wanted to be with drinkers. So I said to the other priests, where are the lost and the lonely? Where are those sheep without a shepherd? I'll go to them. You know, I was looking for a drink. And if you go into a bar dressed like a clergyman, people notice you. People say, there's a penguin at the end of the bar. A walking oil slick's just come in. Everybody wants to talk to you. People used to say to me, you drink like we drink, you smoke like we smoke, you throw up like we throw up. By the way, In my church, I tell you, I had more drunks in my church. People used to come to the church to find out what I was going to say. Nobody knew what I was going to say. Because you know what you're like when you've had a few drinks. You go, whoa, whoa. I remember once doing a funeral, drunk. I was drunk, I did the funeral. I followed the coffin right into the hole. I tell you, it's a scary thing when you hear the amens coming from above. Somebody said, look, there's a priest, he's in the hole. They got me out. We just carried on. It was an Irish funeral. We just carried on. I was full of dirt. I had dirt all over me, and we carried on. It's like, it's what priests do. They find holes and they go straight in them. Do you know at Spring Fling, Sacramento, on a Friday night, you know, nobody ever said anything. When you thought somebody said, have you been drinking, you're drunk? I just did the service and nobody said anything. And so I went home. By the way, that's a very important thing for us to know. If people don't say anything, we tend to keep doing the same things. You know, there are many interventions. Most of us who are here tonight, somebody said something. Somebody said something. Now, it doesn't have to be an organized intervention where you find all your family in your kitchen at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's like, oh, hello. Is it Christmas? No. But I'll tell you, if somebody says something, you think about your life. Somebody said something. At this funeral, I fall in, I follow the coffin in the hole. What a mess. Talking about a mess. Nobody said anything. So, I carried on. Now remember, if you're an alcoholic and you drive a truck, there's going to be times you're drunk in the truck. If you're an alcoholic and a nurse, there's going to be times you're drunk in the hospital. If you're an alcoholic and you're a minister or a priest, you're going to be drunk doing the services. So the next big event for me was a baptism. Oh, it was a big baptism. Some people flew in for it. It was big. We're talking big. And I'd been drinking, but I wasn't drunk. But I was mellow. You know when you're mellow? Give me the baby. Will you give me the baby? I baptize the baby in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Daphne. I didn't ask anybody. I just said, Daphne. The mother let loose such a scream. She said, Father Leo, it's a little boy. I said, I don't care what the hell it is, it's Daphne now. She said, is there anything we can do about it? I said, no. Forever and a day, he will be called Daphne. How do you make amends to a thing like that? But there's something different that happened because the mother got so angry she wrote to the bishop. Now you see how the rope gets tighter? She wrote to the bishop. Now, the bishop, if you don't know, is an employer dressed in purple. So 3 days later, I get a call from the bishop. The bishop says, Booth? I said, yes. He says, the bishop wants to see me tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. I go to see the bishop, and the bishop says to me, I've got a letter! A letter! A letter! I said, good. He said, it's about you, you fool. Are you sick? Are you demented? Are you having a nervous breakdown? Then he looked at me straight in the eyes. He was a small man. He looked at me straight in the eyes. He said, have you been drinking? Had you been drinking? See if you can identify with this. Who? Me? I swear on the Bible. I swear on the Bible. On the Bible. But he didn't believe me. But he couldn't prove it. You ever been in that situation when you know you're telling a lie and they know you're telling a lie, but they can't prove it? This would be about 1976, about 6 months or so before I sobered up. Do you know what that bishop said to me? He didn't say. This is England. 76. We've got AA there now. But in 76, pockets of it. Not much. It's nearly 30 years ago. You know, the bishop never said go to AA. You know, he never said go see a therapist. He didn't even say go into a psych hospital. Do you know what he said? Quit it. Just quit it. Why don't you quit it, Leo? Quit it. I said, quit it. He said, quit it. I said, that's an idea. God, no wonder you're a bishop. Quit it. Do you want to know a funny thing? Spring Fling, Friday night, Sacramento. I quit it for 6 months. I quit it for 6 months. And I'm not the only one who gave up drinking for a period of time who's in this auditorium. 6 months to just stop. By the way, it's not sobriety. It's dry. Dry. When you're dry, you're like a dry leaf. So I say dry, like a dry leaf. You put any pressure on a dry leaf, it'll snap. It'll crack. You get a dry leaf and put... cracks. Sobriety is when that leaf is supple. It bends. That's sobriety. You know if a person's dry. You can be a dry person here tonight. Dry people, they're not drinking, but they're still angry, and they're still judgmental, and they're still gossips. You want to find fault? You want to find fault? You can find fault. If you're the kind of person who wants to find fault, you can find fault with the speaker. You want to find fault with the speaker? They're only human. You can find fault with the big book. Let's face it, it's not the most grammatical book in the world. You want to find fault? You can find fault with the steps, the 12 steps. You're a dry person. You don't live and let live. You have your religion, but you won't let somebody else have theirs. You have your opinions, but you don't let other people have theirs. Regardless of what anybody may say here, the 12-step program is suggested only. There are no gurus. There are no people who know. And by the way, that's what makes this program so rich. We're rich because most of us have our opinions and shades of meaning. Dry people are dangerous people. Dry people say things behind people's backs. Dry people malign you and stab you from a distance. You may not be drinking. Dry people are sexist. Dry people are racist. Dry people are homophobics. They're still hurting people. All you've done is stop drinking, having had a spiritual awakening. Everybody here knows surely by now there's only one step out of 12 steps, only one step that mentions alcohol. The other 11 steps is how you change your attitude and your behavior. You can be a small person or you can be a big person. Your choice. We don't steal and we don't use people. It isn't just about drugs and alcohol. When you're sober, you don't use people. That's the power of the spiritual program. But I did not have that. I was 6 months dry. And if you know anything about being 6 months dry, you're just as lonely and you're just as angry. The only difference is you're not drinking. And here we come to this wonderful word called coincidence. I got a telephone call, I'm not drinking, to go to a girl's 21st birthday party in a pub in England. And would you know it, when I went there, there was an older lady there, and she turned around and she said, "Oh, you, Father Leo?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Remember me from Brighton in Sussex?" I said, "No." She says, "I know you." She says, "You're fun." She said, "Can I get you a drink?" I said, 7 Up. She said, 7 Up? She says, "You're a gin and tonic man. G&T. She said, "Shall I get you a large G&T? I said, "No, I'm on 7 Up. I said, "I'm fizzed out on 7 Up. I'm drinking it for 6 months." Bottom line with it is, she goes to the bar, she comes back, she gives me a gin and tonic. Hey, gin and tonic. Now, some of you here are going to think, that's it. Oh, that's it. He had one drink and he's on a roll. He's a goner. Actually, I had that one drink and I went home. Cunning, baffling, powerful, patient. You see, here's how strange things happen. You may be saying, "Well, what's he doing with that watch?" Well, I'm going to tell you because I'm the speaker. That's why I'm the speaker. You don't know what I'm going to do. I left the watch in the restroom. I had the one drink in the pub, but I'd gone to wash my hands and I'd left the watch in the restroom. So when I woke up the next morning, where's the watch? So I go back to the same pub, the bar. And it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I knock on the door, and the barman's there. He was there last night and gave me the gin and tonic. I said, "Did you find a watch?" He says, "We found a watch in the toilet." I said, "It's mine." He says, "Come in." And he gave me the watch. 10:30 in the morning, he said, "Have one for the road." It's a very common expression in England. Have one for the road. Well, I had that drink. And the lion was awakened. And if you're an alcoholic, you know exactly what I mean. Last night, I had one drink. Fine. 10:30 in the morning, when I had that drink in that bar with the watch, the lion. Shh. And you know when you know you need a drink? I'm talking about drink now. I had a drink there and a drink there and a drink there, and then I went to another bar and another bar, and by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was as drunk as a skunk. And I'm driving home. No hands. But my car, I've only got 2 miles to go to the house. The car hits a tree. The car hits a tree. This is on the 3rd of July, 1977. One day before. The car hits a tree, hits a lamppost, and the car shoots up. It's like a rocket. You know, like a rocket? It's like shoot. Oh. Two old ladies in a garden said, "Look, there goes Father Leo." That's how he travels. But I didn't stay up there. I came down, crash, bang, wallet, what a mess. Torn a mess. Went through the windscreen. You come and you say hello to me afterwards. You ask me to turn around. You see about 12 stitches here. I went through the windscreen. I was the only one hurt. Car turned over. Lying on the floor. Heard the ambulance coming and the police. And the strangest thing in the world. You want to know, talk about strange? I was lying and sitting on the floor there waiting. And I had a God moment. I stepped outside of myself. I stepped outside of myself. And now I'm looking at me. I'm looking at me bleeding, and I'm looking at me hurt. It's like an out-of-body experience. And I'm looking at me, and you know what? I don't like what I see. I don't want to be this man. I don't want to live this way, and I don't want to die this way. I call it a moment. I had a moment when I saw me as I really was. Now, you know something? I think there's many moments in this room. Some of you had a moment when you suddenly realized what your alcoholism had done, because the woman that you love, she may not be with you tonight, but the woman that you love, she was bleeding, and she was bleeding because of you. Violence. Some of us, the moment was, we love our mothers and we love our fathers. In fact, we've got our mother and father here with us tonight. But you know what? It isn't right for a mother at 50 and 60 years of age to be crying for their son or daughter. There's many moments in this room. Don't let anybody say you don't love your kids. Don't let anybody say you don't love your kids. But for many people in this room, your kids did not want to know you. They wanted to keep well away from you. There's many moments in this room. Believe you me, you had a moment. If you're an alcoholic and you're here, you had a moment. And that's when you see with the eyes of God. All you need to know is I picked up the telephone, I called the bishop, and the bishop sent me into a hospital. That was the beginning of my introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous, my introduction to sobriety. I was 3 months in a hospital and 6 months in a recovery home. That's 9 months. It's like a pregnancy. But I hope you take the point. It's also a new birth. And by the way, sometimes you've got to pay the price for your sobriety. There are some people in this room who got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. By the way, my hat is off to you. There are some of us who needed therapy and some of us who needed treatment. Different strokes for different folks. I would never put Alcoholics Anonymous down. And I'm glad I'm putting that on the tape. But let me be very clear, Alcoholics Anonymous is not therapy. The last thing you want is therapy with somebody in AA. I mean, you've got to be crazy. It is what is supposed to be a support program, not therapy. You don't deal with your sex addiction or your codependency or whatever else. Go to the professionals. And just for you to know, from the hospital I was sent to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want to share with you, I am not somebody who resisted AA. And you may say, well, that's a little strange. I mean, and I'll tell you why. When I went to AA, the first meeting was a speaker meeting, and it was a Jewish woman. And by the way, the Jewish woman had a number on her arm. She was a survivor from the Holocaust. She was Polish. She also suffered from alcoholism. Different religion, different sex, different age, certainly a different experience. But I got to tell you something. I cried when she cried, and I laughed when she laughed. I'd come home. I'd never felt in any church, I'd never felt in any group like I felt when I went to that group in Crawley in Sussex. And by the way, it's only 16, 20 people. But I heard stories, and they telephoned. I lost my driving license for 2 years. AA people, because meetings 6, 7 miles away. AA people came to my house, picked me up, dropped me home. By the way, sometimes I could go on a bicycle. And I say to you here at this spring fling, and I hope, especially if you're new, you've got to work for your recovery. And by the way, you've got to pay the price. And if you want to know what order you put it in, it's number 1. It's before your mother, before your wife, before your husband, and before your kids. Because if you're not sober, you don't have any of those anyway. I mean, that's just real clear. Can't be any more clear. Can't be any more clear. And by the way, if this program was offered with recovery, rarely have we seen a person failed. A person who had cancer would do backflips for this program. If you want to know about the insanity of Alcoholics Anonymous, alcoholics sometimes, when they're promised recovery, promised success, they say, and let me just think about it. I mean, life or death. Life or mental institution or prison. Yeah, let me just... No, I don't want to make a quick decision. Got to think about this. Bottom line also is that when I came into this program, I've got to tell you. First time I started to hear about the word spirituality, I was raised on religion. I'm telling you the truth. I'd always been open-minded. I'd always been somebody who thought outside of the box. But I got to tell you, I suddenly heard the word spirituality. And I'm a person who asks questions. And the question I asked is, what's the difference between spirituality and religion? Now, religion is a denomination. We know that. Religion is a group. Catholics believe certain things. Jehovah's Witnesses believe certain things. Reformed Jews believe certain things. Spirituality. And I came up with my definition of spirituality, and by the way, I've lived with it all these years. Spirituality is being positive and creative. Nice man met me here, sitting here on the front row here. His name's Bob. He was at the airport for me. First thing, I say hello to Bob. He says hello to me. He's positive. It's very spiritual. He used to have an Audi. Now he's got a Honda Accord. He would like to have that on the tape, I know. By the way, couldn't make it for dinner. Had a wonderful with Bob's friend, a lady who's sitting there with him. Forgotten her name now. But the bottom line, Kathy. And bottom line with it is, we had a nice salad together. So I'm talking about spirituality. Spirituality is when you reach out to somebody first, when you smile. Don't tell me you've got recovery if you're miserable. There's something wrong with that picture. It's supposed to be a program of attraction. And you say, well, it's the program, but you are the program. You are the program. The program doesn't exist in a book. Nobody's going to be touched just by a book. The book has to live inside you. You're the program. You take those 12 steps and make them come alive. I remember once in a congregation, I was turning around to the congregation. I said, are you happy? They didn't know. They turned to one another and said, are we happy? Are we happy? Then one of them says, we're happy. I said, tell your face. Just take a minute and tell your face, because your face doesn't know. Spring Fling, Sacramento. Are you happy? Are you happy? Very good. So you should be. By the way, it's 12 steps. Don't forget the word steps. Nobody ever says, Frank, come on out and read the 12 standstills. This is not a standstill program. It's steps. We're moving. We're on a journey. Hello? Yeah, a bit of rhythm. Get a bit of rhythm here. Don't forget, we don't want to be dry and we don't want to be boring. If you get boring, you know boring's the enemy. You get bored, and I promise you, you're on a slippery slope. If you get bored with your sponsor or your meetings, get a new sponsor, go to different meetings. Because I'll tell you, boredom is our enemy. Not loneliness, boredom. We live with loneliness. Doesn't matter whether you're married with 5 kids. Most human beings. In fact, St. Augustine said, we're restless. We're restless till we rest in God. We will never be fully at home until we rest in God. That's part of life. Boredom is the enemy. If you're stimulated by the meetings and if you're stimulated by the speaker and the readings, and by the way, may as well throw it in because it's going on the tape. People listen to these tapes all over the place in Mississippi. Oh yeah, they listen to tapes in Mississippi with their catfish and their gumbo and their grits. A little bit of grits here. Nothing like a nice grit in the morning. Let me say it clear and let me say it again, because sometimes sometimes you say something, you shock people. God does not get people sober. That's not God's job. I'm going to say it once more. God does not get people sober. That's not God's job. God wants you sober. But you have to want it too. If God was going to get people sober, nobody would be drunk. And I don't care whether it's Allah or Jesus or whoever you want. They're not, believe you me, and the Bible doesn't get you sober. I know a lot of drunk people in churches. I know a lot of crazy people in churches. Remember where I come from now. Now what I'm sharing with you though is, you've got to want it. Say your prayers and move your feet. Say your prayers and move your feet. For those of you who are really interested in this, Dr. Martin Luther King said something very powerful. Just before he was shot, about 6 months before he was shot, Dr. Martin Luther King says, you need not only pray, you need to be prepared to march. We've been praying for 200 years. Now's the time to march. And that paradigm is also true for recovery. I went into treatment. Don't you tell me I did nothing for my recovery. Don't you ever come up to me. You can share it from your stand. Don't come to me and tell me. I was the one who went into treatment for 3 months. I was the one who went into recovery for 6 months. Don't tell me. And by the way, you hear speakers say it, and I want you to hear what I'm saying. Don't say I don't deserve my recovery. Don't ever say that. I'm a child of God. I deserve it. I've got a sickness. I'm not a bad person. And neither are you. I've worked for my recovery, just like most of you have. I cycled in the rain in England to meetings. I will never take God out of my life, but I certainly don't want to take me out of my life. That was the problem for me for so many years. I wasn't present in my own life. Now I hold my head high. And I'm not somebody who says to God, God, take my life. Take my life. Take it. God says, no. Take it. No. God looks at me and says, why you give your life back to me? I gave you your life. I gave you your life. Now live it. Hold your head high. Go through trials and tribulations. That's what makes you great. Go through the valley of the shadow. That's what makes you strong. Understand that not everybody's going to love you. That's just being real. And not everybody's going to like you, and that's a fact. Grow as a human being. It's what my God says to me. Why would God give me a gift of life and then expect me to give it back? I walk with God in me, and I hope you walk with the God in you. And my God plays with me. And I have a great time. So I've learned so much in this program. You can tell I'm now coming to the end. Some of you have been sitting cross-legged long enough. But I share with you, I said to Mary, 10-minute Mary. She's 10-minute Mary. When she said to me about getting nervous, I said, you're my family. And in a strange kind of a way, you're my family. And I like to think of it that way. All different shapes and sizes, all different colors. By the way, I look at you, I'm looking at the face of God. That's what I believe. You don't have to believe that. I believe it. If you ever say to me, what does God look like? I'd bring you up to this podium and I'd show you. And I'm excited about my life. I came to this country in 1980. I got sober in 77. I've been fortunate enough to be connected with AA all these years, and I've spoken at some of the most beautiful... By the way, the gift of sobriety. I did Oprah Winfrey 3 times because I was sober. I couldn't have done Oprah Winfrey if I was drunk. I did it when she was fat, when she was thin. I'm telling you. I've seen all sides of Oprah. I'm serious. You say, what has it done for me? Some of you say, I've got a wife now and I've got kids now and I'm sitting with my grandkids now. Well, I'm telling you what I've done. I've written books on spirituality and recovery. I've been able to talk to people like yourself. I've met some wonderful people in this program. And anonymity is what stops me mentioning their names. But let me tell you something. I have brought a gift to you, but I am so conscious of the manifold gifts that you have brought to me. I walk with my head high. And there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about the moment when I saw me. I was in the crash and I saw me and I was bleeding and I was hurt. And about 10 years ago, I went to Atlanta to speak at a big convention, Alcoholics Anonymous in Atlanta. A very big, 4,000 people there on a Friday. And afterwards, a young man came up to me. And he said, my name's David. And I'm an alcoholic and a crack. I used to take crack. I'm in a recovery home. I said, thank you, David. It's really nice to meet you. He said, I liked what you said. I said, I liked what you said about the moment. I said, did you have a car crash? Did you have a moment? He said, I didn't have a car crash. I didn't have a car crash. But I had a moment. He said, I wanted to share it with you because, you see, I was hurting for alcohol. And I was in my flat, my apartment, and I was ready to go out. I'm out the door. I'm out the door. And just as I was going on the radio, a song came on the radio. And he said, have you ever listened to a song but you never heard it? You ever listened to a song but you never heard it? I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, the song is in English. That's why I wanted to come and share this, Leo. The song, he said, it was the Beatles. And he said, I'd listened to that song, but I'm going out the door to get some crack, to get something. And all of a sudden I heard it. Now this song also was made popular by Tina Turner. But it was originally sung by the Beatles. I said to him, David, because it's his name. I said, David, what was the song? And he told me the words. And I share these words with you tonight. Maybe it's the one thing you remember from my talk. When I was a young man, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. But now those days have gone, I'm not so self-assured. Now I find I've changed my mind. And I've opened up the door. So help me. Help me if you can. I'm feeling down. And I do appreciate you being around. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please help me? And he said, Leo, there was help for me. I says, I know, David. Because years before there was help for me too. Ladies and gentlemen of this convention, members of my family, in this program we will learn to live again like we've never lived before. In this program we will learn to love again and love ourselves like we have never loved before. And God willing, on a daily basis, you and I will laugh again. We'll laugh like we've never laughed before. God bless you. Thank you.